everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah and I'm never out of books. I'm sorry this video is so late. I've been putting off filming and today my best friend is back in town and we're going out to lunch. Who do I think I am going out to lunch on the middle of the week? Like, scratch that. Who do I think I am going out to lunch? Being social and stuff? Crazy. I'm going to film my March wrap-up. I'm splitting it into two. The first one is going to be the books I read for March Mystery Madness and Middle Grade March, and the other wrap-up is going to be all the other things that didn't fit into those categories. I'm doing this because I read, I believe, 20 things. Most were novels. I think one was a novella. So without further ado, here we go. Some of the books that I read go for both of these things, so it was more of like a middle grade March Mystery Madness sort of deal. But I will go through the couple of middle grades that were not mysteries that I read. First off, I read Gabby Duran and the Unsittables. This is by Elise Allen and Daryl Connors. This is about a little girl named Gabby who is a babysitter, and she babysits more difficult children, as we see in the beginning of the book, and then she gets recruited by an agency to babysit aliens. This book moves very quickly. It is a bit silly, as in silly that I don't like you will find in this wrap-up that I love silly books. I thrive on silly books, but this was a little bit much, and it was not very much in the depth department either. But it was definitely a fun read. It mostly focuses on her babysitting a very specific type of alien that she has to bring to school, and yeah, the things that happen there. It is a very quick read. There are 2 more books in the series. I think I might get them and read them, and if I don't, my daughter will, because she really enjoyed this as well. It is a beautiful book too. The pages are just gorgeous. So it's one that I enjoy having on my shelf. It's very pretty, very hot pink, love it. Would I recommend it for most people? No, because you really do have to be into silly books. I do believe I gave it 3 stars, nothing spectacular, but I enjoyed it. On my way up to vacation, my daughter and I listened on audiobook to Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians by Brandon Sanderson. Yes, I have a physical copy of this book now because I bought it after we listened to it. It was so much fun, okay? Again, this is the Brandon Sanderson who wrote the Mistborn series and all of those. He is known for his incredible world building and interesting magic systems. This is no different. It is definitely for a middle grade audience, so it is toned down just a bit. And yes, it is silly. I freaking loved it. I gave this book 5 stars. I bought this, and then I bought the rest of the books that are in the series that are out. This focuses on Alcatraz, and yes, his name is Alcatraz, and he finds out he is part of a family that knows the truth about the world, and that is that the librarians are trying to keep a lot of things from people, and I am not explaining this well at all. And for his 14th birthday, he gets a bag of sand from his lost parents. Yeah, and okay. You just have to go with it. Just go into it, enjoy it. These are so much fun. The world is set on Earth, but basically the librarians are keeping parts of the world from us, and people from these other parts of the world are very odd to us, but they have special talents. This particular line of people that Alcatraz is part of, but they're talents are things like I fall down and I'm always late for everything. You know, these are the talents. So things that were like, oh, that is awful, you poor thing, are talents in their family. So if you like Brandon Sanderson, you understand his humor, and you don't mind a bit of silliness in your books, I would recommend this. So far, I've only, again, listened to the first book of the series, but I'm looking forward to reading the other books. And this book is also just beautiful, and inside the dust jacket is what the world really is. So you'll see there's hidden lands in there in the oceans. These other books, I read 5 books by Stuart Gibbs. This is the Spy School series. I read the whole thing, and these are all mysteries. So this goes into my March Mystery Madness TBR as well, because the first book I used for new, because it was a new series that I was starting, and that is Spy School. And then the second book I used for the shelf, which is a book on my shelf, because they've all been on my shelf for a very long time. So these are the books. Again, the first is Spy School, then you have Spy Camp, Evil Spy School, Spy Ski School, and Spy School Secret Service. I'm just going to kind of review the first book because otherwise it's just going to get too much. So Spy School centers on Ben Ripley. He's a 12 and 13 later on in the series year-old boy. In this book, he gets recruited for going to this special school in the middle of the school year, and it is a spy school. It feeds into the CIA. Of course, they concoct all kinds of things to tell his parents. He got a scholarship to go to this boarding school, yada, yada, yada. In the first week, he already is, like, an assassin is already coming after him. And the mystery in this book is more like, why? Because he's very unqualified to be at the school. So he's like, other than his math skills, he has incredible math skills. But other than that, he's not trained or prepared to be in this school. So some people are like, why are you here? And he's like, why am I here? But yet a lot of the kids in his own grade are just wowed at the fact that he was almost assassinated. Like, no one gets assassinated as a year one, you know? So these books are fun little mysteries. Again, a bit on the silly side, but not in a way that adults wouldn't enjoy if you don't mind silly books. My whole family read these. Well, not my whole family. I think my grandmother and grandfather read this whole series as well, and my daughter. All of us loved it. So it's coming with like adult approval other than mine. I gave all of the books 4 stars but 1, and that is the one that made me laugh so hard that I peed my pants. And that one was Spy Ski School. Of course, I read this in Vermont when it just continuously snowed, so maybe I was just really in the mood for this. But there is a description of the girl in the story trying to learn how to ski that I was rolling on the floor and I wet myself. I just, for some reason, it went in my brain as like the funniest thing ever. And yeah, that happened. So this one was my favorite for that. And for plotting wise, Spy School Secret Service was the best. So that's the 5th book. You know, for plot, I thought it was just well done. I don't think he has any plans to release another one in this series this year. I could be wrong. He's releasing 2 books this year. One is for a different series, and I think the other one is for one of his other series. So I'm stuck until next year to read, until I read another one of these. I don't think any are coming out, and that makes me very sad. But overall, this is a solid 4-star series for me. For the prompt borrow, I had to deviate from my original TBR because that book did not come in. So I borrowed from the library on my Kindle Something About You by Julie James. This is a romantic suspense book. It is the first book in a series, the FBI U.S. Attorney. And I think they're more of a companion series because this seemed to be a full story. This book has been recommended to me by many people. I didn't enjoy it as much as some people did, and I'm not entirely sure why. But these 2 people, the 2 characters who eventually fall in love, are former enemies, so it is a hate to love sort of romance trope, which I generally like. And she is in a hotel room spending the night because her house floors are being refinished and a murder happens next door, and she is the only person who saw the murderer leave. And so she kind of knows details about him, but not who it is. You know, she saw the coat and the way the person walked and whatever. But she is a U.S. attorney. And it's one of the books where you know who it is about midway through, but they don't. So it's that sort of mystery. And of course he has to protect her because things start going wrong. Yada, yada, yada. I did give it 4 stars, so that is like a better than average book for me, but I was anticipating to giving it 5 stars and loving it. But it didn't do much of anything for me. But it was good. For the prompt historical, I read Her Royal Spyness Solves Her First Case by Rhys Bowen. This is the first book in the series, the Her Royal Spyness series. I enjoyed this one very, very much. I gave this 4 stars. My only complaint on this was that it was a bit slow to get going, and I felt like she didn't really solve the mystery herself. Things just kind of fell into her lap a little bit, so to say. And I don't think the actual murder that she's solving even happens until about halfway through the book. So it was, like I said, a little slow to get into, but I just really enjoyed the historical setting, and I really enjoyed her. So I will continue with this series at my leisure. I'm not rushing into it, and I probably will get them from the library. But this was a hit with my grandmother, very much so. I think she already has a couple of the next books on her shelf to read. So very enjoyable. For foreign, I took that to mean an author from a land that is not the United States. So I read Agatha Christie's Murder at the Vicarage. This is the first book in the Miss Marple series. And Agatha Christie is from the UK. This was a bit of a disappointment to me too. I feel really bad saying that. Disappointment and Agatha Christie I don't think actually go hand in hand, but I think I enjoy Poirot more. This is exactly what it says it is. A murder happens at the vicarage, and it is written first person from the vicar's point of view, which was a little weird to me since it's a Miss Marple mystery. I guess they call them Miss Marple mysteries, maybe because she's there. I don't know. I don't know if she solved the mystery or did anything with it. I don't know. Agatha Christie is a queen. I gave the book 4 stars. I probably will read some more in this series to see if maybe this just had more setup than the other books because it's the first. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Again, I'm not rushing to do that. This was my Agatha Christie for the year, and this was also one of the classics that I wanted to read this year. So it's read, and I enjoyed it. It was a good mystery. Just not as spectacular as the last 2 that I've read from her. Opposite prompt, I had to change things up too because the book that I had planned to read, I thought was a mystery, wasn't a mystery. So I scratched that and kind of had to fill in something that I'd already read because by that point it was the end of the month. And so for that I used the last 3 books in the Lexi Graves series that I caught up with at the beginning of last month. And I chose those because they are on my Kindle, and I generally read physical books lately and not so much off my Kindle. So the opposite of what I normally do. The last 3 books are A Few Good Women, that's number 9, Ready, Aim, Under Fire, which is number 10, and Rules of Engagement, book 11. I erroneously called these cozy mysteries before, or like romantic cozy mysteries, but she's a private investigator, so I'm guessing that these really do not qualify as cozy mysteries. But they are similar, and I think I got into these ones because they are described as being like the Stephanie Plum mysteries by Janet Ivanovich, which I have enjoyed. I mean, I have problems with them, but I enjoyed, especially some of the big earlier ones. So in book 9, A Few Good Women, Lexi is, we get a lot more of her personal life. I don't want to say anything. I mean, it's book 9, so, and these books have actual character progression in them, which is kind of nice. Things happen in her personal life. She makes choices. You get a lot of her life, but her ex-fiance comes back and gets murdered, and she has to solve that mystery. I gave it 4 stars, highly enjoyable. Ready, Aim, Under Fire, book 10. Again, more things happen in her personal life. And again, in these books too, there's usually like a heavier mystery and then a more lighthearted mystery that she takes up pro bono on the side. And those are usually the more funny ones. In this book, though, her brother, who works for the police, all of her family works for the police force, asks her to look into a cold case that he just didn't feel was right. There was something wrong, and they wanted to close it out about a girl named Debbie who disappears and then comes back, but people aren't convinced that Debbie is really Debbie. So this one was kind of interesting. I really liked this one as well. This was a 4-star book, and that one is a bit darker than some of the other ones in tone. And the latest one that's out is Rules of Engagement. This is book 11 in that series, and this one was also a bit darker. Her boss and fiance is shot in what seems like an assassination attempt, and she has to try to figure out who done it with the help of all of her coworkers and such. This one I gave 4 stars, although and this one just got me a little bit upset because her ex comes back and there's a little bit of shenanigan going on there, and I didn't really like that in her personal life. I liked her better without having the potential love triangle come back. Part of the reason I liked this series was that she chose who she wanted, and we went with it for the rest of these books, and now things seemed a bit up in the air. There was closure at the end, but it was just a little much for me. So I'm not sure when the next book comes out in that series. I believe they're Kindle only books, so I haven't really looked into it to see when another comes out, and they don't usually update on Goodreads very quickly, so I'm not sure. And one last mystery, although it is a bit light on the mystery, that I read this past month, but it is back at the library, is The Boy Next Door by Meg Cabot. I read this for some other challenges as well. I will totally admit that. Yeah, I also read this for seasonal series. I think it had something to do, one of the prompts was a book that contains an animal. So in this case, our protagonist lady, whose name escapes me at this second, her neighbor is attacked and she's in a coma and in the hospital. And so she tries to contact next of kin, who's this famous fashion model, to come and walk the dog and take care of the animals, because it's making her late for work. She's not doing so well at work because of this. Because this is a Great Dane we're talking about. And the next of kin, who's a nephew, is a real douchebag, to be honest, and sends one of his old friends, who's not really a friend anymore, but who owes him something, to the apartment to pretend that he's him to take care of the animals while he continues whoring around, basically, in the sun, in some sort of island or something like that. And they end up trying to find out who attacked the old lady. This is written in emails entirely, so it was very interesting in that way. I haven't read a book in that style, like, ever. It was a bit light on the mystery. I did kind of figure out who did it. And of course it's also a chick lit, so it's a romance as well, and that has the foreseen complications because there's some other issues going on there. They're both writers, but she of course doesn't know it, and they write for different newspapers. So you've got that complication going on. So very cute. It is part of a series. I don't know if they're related books or not. I gave it 4 stars, partially because it was very interesting to read in the email format, and it was really enjoyable and cute. But I'm not sure that I want to continue on with the series. I don't feel like I liked it that much to go on and search for these other books. Crap, one less book that I forgot to write down in my bullet journal that I read this month that is a Harlequin intrigue novel, so technically it counts for March Mystery Madness. This is Safe at Hawk's Landing by Rita Herron. This is about an art teacher who teaches art after school to at-risk teens. It's like her baby to do this, and her girls get kidnapped after class, or while she's there during class, I should say. She's the only witness, of course, to the people who kidnapped these teenagers, and the FBI agent and her, get together and try to find where these girls are. This was incredibly gritty for a Harlequin novel, and very triggering for rape as well, because what they discover is a human trafficking ring of teenage girls. So it was very dark, but it was very well written. It packed a punch. It was 4 stars. But again, I would throw out the trigger warnings for anything that has to do with sexual abuse, human trafficking, any of that. But I did enjoy the book. It was one of the books that got me down the Harlequin rabbit hole again. I tumbled down. I haven't read Harlequin in a while. So here we go. So this is long enough already. Read a lot of stuff. Lots of it I really enjoyed. And I'm going to cut this off now and then tell you about some of the other things that I read. So see you in a bit. Bye.